Hello, Raj. Welcome and thank you so much for your consent to be a part of this interview. My name is Irfan, and I really welcome you for this particular interview that is addressed and that is going to be about various aspects of data science and business intelligence, specifically tailored to the Australian market. So, would you please introduce yourself a bit about your background, about your experience in this domain to our readers?
Sure. Thank you, Irfan, for the opportunity to speak about this subject. Look, my background has been in the IT industry for 20 plus years. I have been involved in the early stages of business intelligence and data warehousing about 15 years ago. When I was working at Hewlett Packard, I was looking after the solution program in this space. And most recently, I set up a company called Big Insights about 2.5 years ago, with a view to be an industry analyst and advisor in the emergence of big data analytics and how it's going to transform industries and organizations. I've been focused, I guess, deeply focused in this space for a couple of years.
Well, that seems really amazing and really impressive. The fact that you have got the chance and the opportunity to work with upper tier companies like HP, who have been in the forefront of developing and who have been in the forefront of a lot of technology, state of the technologies in today's age. So, without further ado, we have a couple of questions, and let's focus on the first question that I think will be of great interest to a lot of people out there. So the first of all is that how do you see the growth in Australians market with respect to different buzzwords that we use, that is big data or data science or business intelligence? Can you please share your insight about the state at the moment and what do you foresee in the coming future?
Yes, certainly. So, Australia is in general, quite an advanced use of technology when you compare to the rest of Asia Pacific. We've been using business intelligence for more than 15 years. The current I guess what we have been fairly mature at is using BI from a historical reporting point of view and some initial analytics, some advanced analytics, predictive analytics. But where the lot of the innovation has been using more open source technologies to gather tremendous amounts of information, a lot more than would traditionally be thought in a typical data warehousing structured domain. And so a lot of the innovation has been around the using storage methodology tools like Hadoop and more open source analytics on top of that. And in that capacity, I would say that Australia is probably a couple of years behind the US. But I can see that things are about to change radically in 2016. We did a study with CIO magazine last year, which in fact you can go to biginsights.co/2015 big data study, and you'll see some highlights of that. And we're finding that there's going to be, we believe, some rapid uptake and catching up in the whole the data analytics, data science market.
Well, thank you so much for the analysis. And from the view of your analysis, what we can infer that the market is on its way to becoming more and more growing in its part. And it's good to see that the open source technologies are also seeing some penetration in the market. And this is something of a good pivot and good shift from the traditional closed source commercial solutions that are there in the market, so that can open more opportunities within this landscape. So moving on to the next question that I have, and I believe that many of the people out there will have, is that when it comes to business intelligence landscape or data science landscape, there are a number of people, there are a number of companies and vendors providing their solution that are tailored for different needs. For example, we have Microsoft, Oracle, IBM, SAP, and again open source. So what, in your opinion, is the market share of these leading tools and leading technologies or frameworks out there? What do you think about that?
That's a very interesting question. I think in the current generation of using the big data storage and analytics, which has really become very mainstream across the industry, so you find the Apache Foundation is the one that all these open source tools are being incubated in, if I can use that. So Hadoop, Spark, Kafka, and then the name goes on. What's happened there is that a couple of companies uh, have taken those open source things and created distributions and their enhancements. So a couple of the leading ones there are the likes of Cloudera, Works, Bar. And what you find is that all the companies, Microsoft, Oracle, SAP, HP, they're all somehow either OEMing those distributions as well as doing some innovations on top of that. So all of these, the companies you mentioned, they had their own. Most of them had their proprietary tools in the BI structured world. But what they're finding is that instead of recreating that technology, they themselves are embracing open source, admittedly by repackaging, reselling some of the distributions. So it's a bit like, in the Linux world, you've got, Red Hat, Ubuntu, and a few others that are packaging Linux. In the same way, the open source tools and technology are being packaged by a couple of companies. So, IBM is probably the only one in the ones you mentioned that have got their own distribution of the open source, the Hadoops. But the likes of SAP, Oracle, Microsoft, HP are reselling or OEMing in some capacity. Um, so I hope that answers the question. The only thing I would add is that SAP, on top of that, they have got their own in-memory database called HANA, which has got which is also used for some analytics purposes. But that's probably, I would say, is a niche application of the technology.
All right, that seems quite insightful. And I mean, and what's your take about the respective and the relative market share each of these solutions are enjoying in the Australian industry? The point of asking is that for example, if there is a candidate who is looking for a role in this space in Australia, then how should he focus and channelize his efforts in developing skills in these tools? So how should he prioritize? I know it's dependent on a lot of factors. For example, if he is targeting business sector, then the tools and the set of technologies will be relatively different than the ones being used in, for example, startup phase. But still, just an overview so that it will give a lot of insight to the users how they should prioritize their learning and how they should prepare
Sure,
themselves.
sure. Look, in terms of learning in this space, um, first of all, because it's a lot of open source technology at the ground level, the cost of learning this has come down dramatically, and I think that's good news for anyone that's trying to enter this space. So what I would suggest is that the core technologies around Hadoop, Spark, and what distribution you learn is there's just minor differences. It's like learning the difference between one relational database system and another relational database system. There's minor differences, but architecturally they're very similar. So that's at the data engineering side. Learning MapReduce and Spark. In some cases, Java is the language that's used in MapReduce, which is based on the traditional Hadoop. Spark is a lot of the programming is done in Scala, so that may be language for people to learn, as well as a programming paradigm. Spark is more of a real-time analytics stream on top of Hadoop. The other thing I'll mention is that that's the data engineering and the programming. On the data science side, what we're finding is that the new age tools being used, at least programmatically, are things like R, which is again open source, and most people are using that in Python as a programming language. So they're some good tools to learn. If you want to, if you're less technical and you want to go more into the business end of things, then there's a couple of visual tools that are gaining prominence. Things like Tableau, Click, and a few others are gaining prominence in this space. So I think if and once you know the concepts, it's easy to jump between one and the other.
Exactly. I mean, the concepts they do matter. The foundational knowledge that's I think more important. But again, but when it comes to, for example, if someone is looking at the job requirement, they see an X software being mentioned, the Y software being mentioned, and that's why some people get confused. But again, your answer has definitely clarified a lot of ambiguities that were surrounding this particular question, and I hope that this will be useful for a lot of people out there. So moving on to the next question, at different times in our life and in the technological timeline, a paradigm shift happens, and the way technology is being done and the way problems are being solved change in a completely disruptive way. A while ago, around in 2004, I assume, MapReduce framework came up, and it completely changed the way the large-scale processing was being done, and Hadoop, and then subsequent technologies popped up. So, in the case of current era, what type of paradigm shift that you are foreseeing that will happen in the space of business intelligence or data science, that specifically, if you want to narrow that down to Australia? So if there is any trend that you are foreseeing, what will it be, and how it's going to impact businesses and technologies?
Well, it's surprising how long technologies have a gestation period before they're taken up by commercial enterprise. Hadoop and MapReduce is just in its probably 10th year of being commercial, and still, in Australian enterprises and even in the US enterprises, it is still not mainstream. So things do take a long time before they become mainstream. I would say that there's still tremendous growth in the open source and Hadoop side. Maybe MapReduce is not being used so much, but Spark, has still got a ways to go. Um, there's always, and there's a lot of talk about AI at the moment, but remember, artificial intelligence is still a 20-year-old domain. My business partner did a master's in cognitive science more than 20 years ago, and it's only now that it's starting to become talked about in a more general sense. So, I'm sure there's lots of paradigm shifts, but I think in Australian businesses, what's probably going to occur is these technologies start being meant to solve, organizational wide issues
All right.
more and more.
Yeah, a lot of things need to be taken into account when it comes to embracing the technology, and if the paradigm shift happens, the time it takes to become mature and viable for the organizations and what type of value it is bringing, I think it will. These are the factors that will ultimately determine the direction of the paradigm shift that we are currently talking about. So that's good. So and again, you mentioned about, and I think just wanted to add that yes, AI is quite an old domain, and it has been experiencing a lot of surge in the research community, both in machine learning community and data science. And I think that probably the reason is that maybe the computation power of our current resources have become much more advanced than what was available decades ago, and that's actually making possible the value that AI initially was envisioned, and now it is making more practical so far at the moment. So again, I mean, when we compare Australia to USA, I mean, USA, the Silicon Valley, is considered to be the innovation hub. So many technological innovations are happening and things like that. Do you think that Australian market is lagging in terms of innovation when it comes to data science specifically? And what can be done specifically in the Australian market, and how this market can further evolve to actually shorten the gap that is there between Australian market and the USA market, specifically in terms of technological innovation?
Yeah, look, no doubt all this innovation is happening out of Silicon Valley and related companies. In fact, a lot of the innovations coming out of the large internet properties who have to solve these massive data issues, and they find that after they find something, they've done something useful, they provide it in open source. So there's two sides of the coin here. One is the underlying technology innovation. The second is using the technology to solve business problems. So in the later, definitely Australia is catching up. So banks, insurance companies, telcos are all starting to use this technology to solve different problems, whether it be customer 360, upsell, cross sell, enhanced customer intimacy, all the way to predictive maintenance on asset-rich environment, and there's tens and tens of use cases that they're looking at and working on. But on the other hand of underlying technology that is coming in the open source community, I actually don't think Australia will ever, there may be a small chance Australia creates something that is, that is going to be adopted globally. We're more likely to have startups that use the technology to solve let's say, a problem in a domain that we know of, like mining or other industries, and then that goes global. But underlying technology to process, petabytes of data and analyze it effectively at that level, we may not. In visualization tools, we have produced a couple of BI vendors in the past, so we may have something there. But I don't think there's anything to, as such, Australia can do. 25 million people. There's only so much R&D dollars, or so many large internet properties, or large scale utilization of this stuff.
All right, so that gives a lot clearer picture about what's happening and what type of potential is there and what are the dynamics there. And would you like to share your comments about some possible startups here in Australia? Is there any particular startup or any particular company working on a very specific idea or technology that really excites you? Just your personal experience, just out of curiosity.
Yeah, look, there's a couple of companies using this technology. There's one company that's spun out of a research organization that's Ambiata, that's doing some exciting work in terms of financial services and how you can transform the customer experience, in banking and insurance. There's a company called Mercurian that's taking data from cars, commercial fleet, and in real time can do a lot of analytics based on efficiency, wastage, fraud, all that sort of stuff. So there's lots of people using it to solve different business problems in different industries. So look, it's a very exciting time ahead, and I would recommend anyone that's got willing to do something adventurous in their careers to work with a startup or start a startup, and work with these technologies.
All right. So that seems good. So I have all of my questions answered. If you have anything specific that you want to mention to the people who are listening to this particular podcast, any tip that you want to give, any advice or anything like that that may help the career of data scientists, you are more than welcome to share.
So look, what I would say is that this is just the start of a golden years, potentially for the next 5-10 years. What I would suggest is that keep close to the learning, and enhancing your skills, and should have bright future. And the only thing I'd like to add is I'm actually on March the 2nd, for anyone that's in Sydney. I'm hosting a session for startups, talking about how the unicorns in Silicon Valley using data science to grow their business. And I've got a couple of startups talking about what they're doing. So anyone that's in Sydney, and hears this before March the 2nd, I will provide you the details so you can put that on your blog, and so people can register.
Yeah, that would be great. And if you could share after the session the recording of that event, if it happens, I would love to share it with the readers as well, if it's possible.
We'll see what we can do.
Okay, so thank you so much, Raj, for your time, for sharing your valuable insights. You have massive experience, and I do believe that, including me, a lot of other people would have learned a lot, and they would have gained a lot of clear insight about what's happening and what's going to happen, hopefully, in this particular domain within Australia and abroad as well. So I do believe that this interview has been also interesting for you as well, and thank you so much for your patience that you showed while answering the questions in detail. And I really appreciate that you came and for this particular interview.
Yeah, look, my pleasure, Irfan. And if anyone's interested in keeping up to date, just biginsights.co. We keep our website updated with some interesting stuff. Thanks
Great,
so much.
great. Have a good day, Raj. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too. Bye bye.